Coming up on Esoteric Atlanta.
Jan, how about pirates? Laura, well, who was in this area? Eskimos? Answer no. Laura, Indians? Answer keep going. Network. Laura, there was the French and English. How about the Vikings? Frank, no, the Vikings were 600 years before that. Terry, well, we don't know how long ago the pit was dug. Jan, I'm still, yeah, good question, Laura. When was the pit dug? Answer 1500s. Nationality is not issue.
And before we get into the episode today, just a big thank you to all of our patrons and our producers here on Esoteric Atlanta. Without you guys, this channel would not be possible. If you would like to help support the work we do here on Esoteric Atlanta, there is a link to our Patreon account down in the description box below.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Esoteric Atlanta. Of course, my name is Bryce. For you guys who are new here, I know I picked up quite a few new subscribers with Toddy One Skip's interview with Gypsy Rose. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. We talk about a lot of weird conspiracies on this channel, some ridiculous, some not so ridiculous. And obviously, the Gypsy Rose story is literally a conspiracy. It's like perfect for this channel, right? Because the story that the mainstream media gave us, as well as the judicial system gave us, is very obviously not what happened. And so we love to entertain all of these conspiracies here on this channel. I often say, quote Aristotle, where Aristotle said that it's a sign of an intelligent mind when you can entertain an idea without accepting it. Now, obviously with Gypsy, we know she's lying, but with the other conspiracies that we cover on this channel, I just ask that you have an open mind. I have an open mind about a lot of them. As many of my longtime viewers know, that I'll do deep dives into subjects and then I still won't have like an opinion because I just don't know. Like, we've been lied to about so many things in our world. We're at this time astrologically where we're coming into a more of an awakening, where the matrix is not as powerful as it was. With that being said, we know that Saturn just left Pisces and is now in Aries. Tamara talked about that this weekend. If you missed that, she talked about the new 29-year cycle that's coming. And Saturn, if you guys are not familiar with astrology, Saturn is kind of like Father Time. Saturn is definitely the matrix. And Saturn has its place, right? Like, we have to take care of ourselves. We have to pay our bills. We have to do things sometimes we don't want to do because we have to do it. You know, we have to take a shower. We have to clean our house. Like, that's all part of like Saturnalian stuff, right? It goes deeper than that. Like, we wear wedding bands because that represents the rings of Saturn. Like, our judges and our priests wear black robes. That's Saturnalian. When we graduate from university, we wear a black robe. That's Saturnalian. The hat we wear when we graduate, the square hat, is Saturnalian. It goes even deeper than that. But a lot of people get very heavy in the Saturnalian conspiracies. But again, the darkness can't create anything, only the light can create. So the only thing that the darkness can do is steal from the light and invert it. So Saturn does have its place, but nonetheless, the matrix is kind of crumbling that we know it, Father Time. The matrix that we have known is the time is up, right? That's the Saturnalian influence. And so a new matrix will be forming. Again, just because it's the matrix doesn't mean it's bad. And with that being said, a lot of things that we thought were true, we're learning are not true, that we've been lied to about so many things. And again, I was thinking about this morning when I first started to realize that like history might not be correct, because I really love history and all that kind of stuff. At first, it was almost like a black pill. Like, it was very depressing to like learn about Tartaria and to try to figure out like what the truth is. But then I kind of got over that because it kind of became exciting, right? Like, if nothing we know is as it is, then what is the truth? And that's what we're discovering. And with that being said, we are looking at something called the Cassiopaean form. Again, for those who are new, I hope one day the Cassiopaeans they'll ask about Gypsy Rose. I don't know if they will or not, but here's my thing with Gypsy Rose. Like, we know that the media, and if you're new to this, like, if the media is lying about Gypsy Rose, what else is the media lying about? Wink, wink. The media is owned by like 6 different companies, 6 different family corporations, right? And I personally have worked with some journalists. A few years back, I got contacted by a journalist at a big media outlet. I'm not going to say which one, but it was a big one. Everyone knows it, because they wanted me to participate in some documentary they were making because of my research. And I sat with this journalist for a while. I went over to the headquarters. He showed me around, and I was very honest with him. And I was like, listen, legacy media is so distrusted at this point that I appreciate the offer, and I really liked this guy. I'm like, this is nothing about you. You seem like a very good person. But I just don't want to have my reputation ruined, because I'm independent, right? I'm an independent researcher. So I don't get a paycheck from a corporation every week. So I need to stay integral. And because your media corporation has been caught lying so much, I just can't participate. And anyway, it ended well because he understood. He absolutely understood. But so we know that legacy media doesn't tell the truth. Now, with most cases where they're lying, we can typically figure out why they're lying. And it usually comes down to the bottom dollar. Like, it's usually like a money thing, or hiding something that can disrupt the establishment's way of life. I have to be careful what I say on the YouTubes. But with Gypsy Rose, that's where my question is I can't figure out why. Like, what's the motive for the media and the judicial system? Well, first of all, what's the motive for the judicial system to create this, or to back her defense attorney created this Munchausen by proxy lie? And the DA agreed to it, gave her a plea deal, and she got a 10-year sentence. So why? And we know that they had enough evidence that if they had gone to trial, she probably would have gotten the penalty, if you know what I mean. The evidence was that damning. So why did the DA, what was in it for the judicial system? Like, why did they agree to basically sell their soul and go with this lie? That's my question. Like, what's in it for them? And then behind that, what's in it for the media? That's where my Gypsy Rose question is, because Gypsy Rose, she's not a Hollywood celebrity. She's not from some billionaire family. Like, in my opinion, and this might rub people the wrong way, I think she's kind of white trash. I know that might sound bad to say, but she's trashy, right? Like, I don't understand, like, what is the media getting out of this lying? What is the judicial system getting out of lying? Her parole officer, I mean, she's violated her parole how many times, and nothing's been done. I don't know why they're doing this. And that's what drives me crazy with the Gypsy Rose conspiracy, because, again, with other stories and other lies, we can figure out what their motive is for lying, but with her, we can't. And I guess, eventually the truth does come out. So I guess over time, we will see more and more about maybe what's happening behind the scenes. But if you guys have any thoughts about that, you can leave it down in the comment section below. Just be careful with the words you use, because, YouTube terms and services. So anyway, but if you came over from Toddy with that interview, I cannot wait. I was thinking about having Toddy come back, after Gypsy's release from parole, because there's already shenanigans she's getting into with the OME TV and the kids. Like, there's already those shenanigans, and I know she's just the gift that keeps on giving. Like, there's gonna be more stuff that's gonna happen. She can't help herself, right? So I was thinking about getting Toddy back on after she's released from parole for an update. But I would love to hear y'all's thoughts. What's your conspiracy? Let it rip in the comment section. I know Toddy gave her conspiracy, and this is the safe place. You're safe to give your conspiracy here. because Aristotle said it's a sign of an intelligent mind when you can entertain an idea without accepting it. And that's what we're doing. We're just entertaining ideas. We aren't accepting ideas as fact. We're just entertaining. It's called critical thinking skills, right? And so let it rip in the comment section what your thoughts are behind that, especially if you're new. Now, again, I hope the Cassiopaeans do say something. If it's big enough for the Cassiopaeans, like if there's a bigger scandal there, they might answer the Gypsy Rose question if it's asked. Otherwise, they won't if there's no like real big scandal behind it. But nonetheless, so again, if you're new here, we are going to be looking at the Cassiopaean transcripts. Now, in a minute, I'm going to play a little like 2-minute introduction so that you kind of know who the Cassiopaeans are, what the Law of One is. But basically, the Cassiopaeans are an intergalactic group. They're channeled by a woman named Laura Knight, and they've been channeled for about 31 years now. So, and they've never really been wrong. They've never been wrong. So it's interesting to kind of look and see what they have to say about world events and about certain conspiracies and about certain things that have happened, because sometimes what we think really happened is what really happened, and sometimes we're way off. And so that's interesting just to see from their perspective, their all-knowing perspective, what's really going on behind the veil, right? What's it that Shakespeare said? The whole world's a stage. All men and women are merely actors. And man, that is so true, right? So let's start with that 2-minute clip. If you've been here for a while, obviously you can just kind of skip through it so that you guys know about the Law of One and the Cassiopaeans. Laura Knight's Cassiopaean experiments, often associated with the Cassiopaea material, involves the exploration of consciousness, spirituality, and the nature of reality. Through various methodologies, including channeling and psychic experiments, Knight and her collaborators sought to communicate with higher intelligences, particularly a group of entities referred to as the Cassiopaeans. The primary aim was to gain insight into the metaphysical questions, the nature of existence, and human development. The experiments included multi-session discussions that covered topics like multidimensional realities, free will, and the influence of higher dimensional beings on humanity. Knight recorded these sessions, which often contained profound philosophical and esoteric insights, and these records became part of a larger body of work that aimed to explore consciousness beyond conventional scientific understanding. The overall tone of the experiments reflect a blend of skepticism and deep inquiry into the nature of consciousness and our place in the universe. Laura Knight began her communication with the Cassiopaeans in 1994. She is still in communication with the Cassiopaeans to this day. If you would like a better understanding of the Cassiopaeans and their impact on humanity, I would highly suggest checking out the Wave series by Laura Knight, the Cassiopaean Forum, which a link will be provided in the description box below, or purchasing the book that I personally am reading from that contains all of the transcripts and conversations between Laura and the Cassiopaeans. The Cassiopaeans base the soul's evolution and consciousness on the spiritual template known as the Law of One. The Law of One is also known as the raw material. It is a series of philosophical texts that emerged from a series of channeling sessions conducted by Carla Rucker, Don Elkins, and Jim McCarthy in the early 1980s. The sessions involved channeling a consciousness known as Ra, who claimed to be a collective of extraterrestrial beings from the sixth density. The key concepts in the Law of One are unity and oneness. The central tenet of the Law of One is that all beings are fundamentally interconnected and are expressions of the same universal consciousness. The phrase, "we are all one," encapsulates this idea, emphasizing that unity is the essence of existence. It also covers the densities of existence. The material describes the cosmos as composed of multiple densities or levels of existence. Each density represents a stage of spiritual evolution, with humans currently experiencing a third density, which is characterized by lessons in love, understanding, and most importantly, making choices. We also seek to understand in the Law of One soul evolution. According to Ra, souls undergo a process of evolution through these densities, learning and growing through various incarnations. The choice between these paths influences one's spiritual evolution and the experiences one encounters in life. There's also discussions of the role of free will. Free will is considered sacred, and individuals are encouraged to explore and make choices regarding their spiritual development without interference from higher beings. If you would like more information on the Law of One, please make sure to check out the material for yourself. A link to all resources will be posted down in the description box below. But for now, let's get on with the show. All right, so as always, the link to the Cassiopaean board is going to be down in the description box below. It's free, so you guys can look at it at your own leisure as well. And if you want to join the forum, you can do that as well. Now, usually what I do to my new friends is I usually find a reading. I'll read through it first that looks interesting, and then I'll do some back-end research, especially if it's an older reading. The one we're looking at today was from 1994, and in 1994, I was 11 years old. So I always ask, how old were you? So how old were you in 1994? Now, because of, it's been crazy these last couple of weeks, that's why the videos have been more sporadic. They've been shutting off our internet a few days because they've been doing construction on my block. And I guess they assume most people are at work anyway. They send us notices, so we know. And I could do stuff from my phone, hotspot my phone, but I'm used to doing on the laptop. So that's why these videos have been a little bit sporadic. And with that being said, I haven't had a chance to prepare for this reading. So I don't really know what all is going to come out in this reading. So it could be interesting. This is like playing a little bit of roulette, right? Like, we don't know what's going to pop up. What I did, though, because a couple weeks ago, Catherine and I, my friend Catherine Edwards and I, did an episode about all of the Egyptian artifacts that had been found here in the Americas. And, you know, the whole conspiracy around G.E. Kincaid, the Smithsonian. I'll tag that video below if you missed it. Very fascinating. Again, the Aristotle quote, it's a sign of an intelligent mind when you can entertain an idea without accepting it. And there's just overwhelming evidence that where they told us Egypt is might not be the case because of, anyway, I'll tag that video below, but it's an idea to entertain. So I thought, you know what, let me go and look and see what the Cassiopaeans have said about Egypt. Now, of course, there's lots of readings regarding Egypt, but from what I know at this point, I don't think Laura's ever asked the Cassiopaeans about our geography. And from what I kind of pick up, I don't know if Laura's ready to ask that question. That would be one of the first questions that I would ask, because I'd be like, what the hell is going on? Why are these artifacts being found that totally disprove the historical timeline that we've been given? Like Gobekli Tepe, I've covered that down below. That totally, Gobekli Tepe totally destroys the historical ancient history. It's a problem for the establishment, the discovery of Gobekli Tepe. So that would be one of my first questions if I was talking to is our geography that we know it real? That would be one of my first questions. Or where is Egypt really? Tell me the real story of Egypt. But I don't know if Laura's really ready to do that. You know, I kind of pick up from her. A lot of the people in this group, and again, two things can be true, right? Like, I really respect them. They are amazing for putting this out. But sometimes I think that they're too attached to the academics of it all. You know, like I noticed this a lot in the yoga world where I come from, and being in India and studying at this prestigious school in India. And I would see a lot of my fellow students really dog people who were really into like designer labels, but yet they would be very prideful about the amount of degrees they had. And I would kind of sit there and be like, what's the difference? They're both labels. Like, so you're dogging someone for being prideful about owning a Gucci purse, but you're prideful about having your PhD in philosophy. Like, these are both labels. Like, what's the difference? You know, judge not lest ye be judged. So I think they kind of fall in that camp of being really academically focused, where they think that's like their work. And so I think that asking questions like that would be really challenging and triggering for them, because I think they would have to let go of a lot of what they've been taught in schools. So that's just my opinion. It could change. I could be wrong. But nonetheless, I just Googled Egypt and I pulled up a reading from 1994. So if we stumble upon something that I'm unaware of, you guys, we're going to research it in real time. Sorry, it's 1995. My bad. It's 1995, the 22nd of April, 1995. So I was 12 years old. I I was mere weeks away from having my appendix taken out at this point. So needless to say, at 12 years old, I was not joining adults in channeling forums. But let me know, how old were you on April 22nd of 1995? I'd love to know. So on the board, we have Frank, Laura, Terry, and Jan. Those are the people that are working the board. Hello, hello. Who do we have with us this evening? Leoa? I never can say their names. Leoa? And where are you from? Cassiopaea. We have a couple of personal questions for the Konakovs. Are you willing to answer these questions for them? Konakovs prone to vendetta. They are prone to do vendettas themselves open. I think the Konakovs, I did look this up. I think that these must be a family. Hold on. Let me just double check this. Hold on 1 second. All right, guys, we're going to look at DuckDuckGo here because that's the best for now. So I just typed in Konakov's occult, and this might be what she's referring to. Barry Leslie Konakov, I don't even know if I'm saying the name right. Konakov was a United States hypnotist, author, one-time libertarian candidate for the United States Congress. He was a president and chief hypnotherapist of the Potentials Unlimited. At one time, Konakov sold approximately 1 million self-hypnosis tapes a year. Konakov was also notable for his involvement in several court cases, including the United States versus Konakov, a 2001 conviction for one count of conspiracy to defraud the United States by impeding, impairing, obstructing, and defeating the lawful government functions of the IRS, so tax fraud. Let's see. Let me look at this website quickly because Wikipedia is interesting. It looks like he's already left the earth. It looks like he left the earth on 2018. My name is Barry Konakov. I'm the author and voice of Potentials Unlimited. I began my hypnosis career in 1977 by conducting a group weight loss and stop smoking classes in Grand Rapids, Michigan. As part of my classes, I wrote and recorded 2 tapes, one for each. I continued writing and recording and creating over 200 programs. My Potentials Unlimited tapes would set the standard for self-hypnosis tapes all over the world. Over the years, I trained at 4 hypnosis schools and joined 2 hypnosis organizations. In 1981, I began training people to become hypnotherapists and started the World Congress of Professional Hypnotherapists. Takes you directly to his Wikipedia page. And this is interesting because this kind of goes back to David Weiss as well. We've talked about him before. I really like David Weiss, his books. Editing Bryce here. I am so sorry. I do this all the time. I don't know why I want to call him David. His name is Brian Weiss. I think we have a student named David Weiss, or I've had a student. That's why I keep wanting to call him David Weiss. It's Brian Weiss's book, so I apologize for the wrong name, but it's Brian Weiss, who is a hypnotherapist. Many minds, many masters, and they have kind of, if I remember correctly, the Cassiopeians were pretty cool with David Weiss. So it's interesting that they're asking about all these different hypnotherapists because Laura herself, I believe, is a hypnotherapist. But we know the Cassiopeians are very, they follow the law of one. And we know that, and this is a profound lesson for everybody in the spiritual world. In the law of one, third density where we live, where we currently are, is a density of choice. We have to make choices. We're either going to go service to others or service to self. But the main rule of the game is free will and consent. So we know that the dark entities will often try to manipulate free will and consent by appearing to us as a light, by trying to come across as a good entity. 99% of the time when someone sees or has an experience with what is like an angel or a good entity, it's actually a dark entity in disguise. Most of the good entities will not come here to help us unless we specifically ask for them. And the reason why is because they respect our free will. They don't want to interfere with our karma. They don't want to interfere with our free will. That's very much service to others, is living and let live. And so when they ask, it's interesting they ask about all these, like, obviously big wigs in this alternative health world, like hypnotherapy, because some of them, the Cassiopeians, have acknowledged as being accurate and some not accurate. And how does this work? So obviously they're saying the Konakovs are prone to vendetta. They are prone to do vendettas themselves open. Are they the object of some sort of vendetta, all-inclusive of what? Mindset? Are they paranoid? Okay. Okay. The Cassiopeans definitely make me laugh. They are funny. Okay. And so it just sounds like and we're going to go a little bit further, but like I said, I have not pre-read this. What it sounds like to me, and I'd love to hear your insight on this, is what they're saying is, and I've talked about this before, like when you're in a spiritual practice, and this is where, again, the confusion is great. A spiritual practice, a true spiritual practice, is you learning about your own spirit, not someone else's spirit. So like a lot of these channelings, a lot of hypnotherapists, tarot card reading, that's not actual spiritual work. That's more a communication tool with with beyond the veil, right? Actual spiritual work is you being in touch with your own soul, your own spirit. And most of like the really pure tarot card readers that I know will make sure that they have their own spiritual practice and they work on their own karma before they even read for other people, because they are aware of that. And so when you're working on yourself, when you're doing your shadow work, you're facing your own insecurities, your own attachment, avidya, as we say in Sanskrit, meaning wrong thinking, you start to like notice your ego. And so what it seems like what they're saying that they are prone to vendettas is that this group is maybe in their ego. And so therefore, because they're in their ego, their work can be compromised. And that might not even be by higher entities. That could just be by their own imagination or self, because the ego is involved, if that makes sense. So that's kind of what I might be corrected here in a minute, but that's kind of what I pick up from that. Let me know what you think down below. Well, they have 4 names. Can I give the names and you give a response to each name? These are people they have been associated with and they would like to know. Answer: we do not wish to be used for personal life direction by those who take an outwardly orientation. We have given answers for these people before, and you don't know what they have done with information. Laura says, V Redacted wanted to know if the Naropa Institute in Boulder would be a good place for her to go to school. We talked about the Naropa Institute over on the Esoteric Academy. That's a Buddhist school that you can go to, and Ram Dass did a lot of work over there. So answer more previous subjects. Suggest tread softly and use diplomacy, not what Terry suggested. Laura, yes, we don't want to tick them off. Jan, well, I don't like to lie. Laura, well, there are lies that are okay lies and there are lies that are hurt lies. So what does she mean by that? That comes from the law of one. So the law of one says that lying, it's not as nuanced. So like if you are trying to save your life and you lie to somebody to save your life, obviously that's okay. Or like, let's say you go out to a restaurant and your friend meets you and she got a new dress and she's excited about the new dress and you think it looks awful on her, but she's excited and she says, what do you think? In that restaurant, you're not going to be like, I think that looks awful, because that will hurt her feelings, right? And it doesn't really matter. If she feels good in it, then that's, so they talk about that in the law of one. So that there are lies that are okay. So that's, and then there are lies that are actually hurt people. And what they're saying too, I think here is, and we've talked about this before, the Cassiopeians, again, they don't want to interfere with our free will. So Laura said, Be Redacted want to know if the Naropa Institute in Boulder would be a good place for her to go to school. They don't obviously want to answer this question. And I think because they don't want to interrupt her karma and they don't want to interrupt her free will. And so with a question like that, she's going to have to go within herself to find whether this is some place she wants to go or not. You can't be reliant. They're not here. They're here to assist us, not do it for us, right? Okay. So answer: yes. After further online contact with Konakovs, we'll communicate helpful information. Do you want me to get them on the phone? That was in quotes. Laura V. Redacted and I talked about points of entry of discarnates. Discarnates, for those who don't know, that's their word for ghost. Dead dudes, they say sometimes, discarnates. So we're incarnates. Excuse me, we're souls in a body. They're discarnates, so they're souls without a body, so ghost. All right, let's do that again. Laura V. Redacted and I talked about points of entry of discarnates. I remember that Jan talked about something getting her on the back of the neck as she was sitting at the computer. I would like to know if there's any common entry point for these kinds of connections. No. Can it occur any place? Yes. Is the back of the neck a common place? Common. Do they find your physical weak spots and enter there? Physical is not the issue. I know this. Physical is not the issue. So they find your auric weak spots. Close. Are your auric weak spots sometimes reflected in your physical? Yes, all is possible. So that's what we study in like yoga. Like the body is the minefield. So it's really not about the physical, even though you'll have a weakness in your body. It's because it's psychosomatic. So it's a weakness in your energetic body. It's your karma basically. And so in order to like, Paul and I have spoken about that. Like you can go to a healer and get them to remove ghosts or spirits off of you. You can cut that. But if you don't actually do the work to heal that part of you that baited them in the first place, they're just going to come back. So that's why self-work is so important. It's so important to do your work. During the time that we all had pains in our shoulders, was that a psychic attack? Maybe. Well, you said that this was evidence of DNA changes. Was it that? How does one learn? Since we are not equipped to examine genetic material and find out about DNA changes, we are kind of relying on you to tell us when DNA change is going on. You indicated at the time that this was a DNA change. Network. They're not going to give you guys all the answers. Like that's, they need you to do it yourself. And something I like about the Cassiopaeans too, is they actually, when you get into the spiritual world, sometimes we do this thing as humans. We all do it, projection. Right? So if something is hurting in our body, we immediately want to project it on something else. Like somebody hurt me or some spirit is hurting me. And 99% of the time, that's not the case. 99% of the time, if you have pain in your body, it's your karma. It's your karma. You're hurting yourself. But we have a hard time accepting that. People, it's so easy to disassociate from our own lives and not want to, to be distracted and to like ignore all this work we have to do. And so the C's are pretty good about pointing that out. Like in one of the readings, I still laugh. One lady was talking about all these symptoms and she thought she was being spiritually attacked and who was doing witchcraft on her. And the C's were like, you're in menopause, right? Like, and so that's again, another reason why we have to take responsibility. If you're on the spiritual path, and you have a bad knee or a bad hip, the first thing you should look at is yourself. Okay, what is my hip? Like we know knees, if you're into this stuff, the energetic body knees are connected to your kidneys. Kidneys and knees represent the future. So if you have knee problems, there's an issue, a subconscious issue with fear of the future. Now, depending on left and right, depends on either masculine or feminine, which represent different things. If this is fascinating to you, please go to see a healer. They can talk you through all this stuff. And everybody's pain is going to be slightly different, right? So I have major lower back issues. I know why that is. And I have to work on that daily. And so what we negate sometimes is that even though we're here on this earth and we have this great collective consciousness of great awakening, the most important thing is us correcting our own karma, right? Like all the bad stuff going on in the world is never going to correct itself unless we correct ourselves. Yeah, like Michael Jackson said, it's the man in the mirror. Yeah, so, and we see this a lot in the beginning where they just want to blame every physical condition, every biological condition. They want to blame on a psychic attack. They want to blame on witchcraft. And I like that the C's are like, you need to look at yourself first. Yes, does witchcraft happen? Absolutely, it does. Do psychic attacks happen? Absolutely, they do. But it's not everything. You play a part in this as well. Yeah. So when they say network, they mean like you guys, like they're, because DNA does change. And this is something that's bonkers to me because I've said before, they've never talked about the Yoga Sutras on this forum, which is crazy to me because that seems like the first book you would pick up if you were in this awakening. My opinion, though, is that if they do entertain the Yoga Sutras, then they're going to have to face the fact that they need to exercise. And I just don't think they want to do that. Especially Laura, I don't think she wants to do that. And so I think that's why she's never ventured into that. But in the Yoga Sutras, in the Vedic text, within yoga worlds, especially in India, where I come from, this has been known for a very long time. You know, if you practice yoga consistently, like daily, you can actually shift your DNA. You can shift it. And you can create new DNA patterns that you could pass down 7 generations that will continue for about 7 generations below you. This is talked about a lot in India. This is just common knowledge. And so the fact that they're sitting here saying, well, we need you to tell us, well, I argue back. I think the C's are right. No, network, because there are other cultures in this world that know this stuff. They don't need to channel some extraterrestrial consciousness to understand DNA changes. And so if they're just relying on them to tell them, then they're not networking. They're not researching. They're not going out at this point to the library and looking in the encyclopedias and reading the Vedic texts and talking to shamans, talking to yoga to not vinyasa flow teachers, but like real yoga teachers like Ashtanga, Iyengar, you know, to understand these things. And that's what they're saying, go network. The answers are out there in your world. Just because they're not available in the Western world does not mean that they're not available. And so that's what they're saying. Like, we're not going to tell you the answers to this because we've given you a clue that DNA changes do happen. Now you need to do the rest of the work. Okay. Is there anything going on with this heating up process, this feeling of being hot? Paranoia will destroy you. Well, I'm not being paranoid. I'm serious. Is there anything going on with vibrational changes in this heat, a reflection of this? In seriousness, no. When we do the channelings and Reiki, does that generate body heat, higher energy? Does that translate into heat? Yes, in third density. Again, this is known in yoga. Laura, this is not a secret. This is not groundbreaking news. The Indian culture has been knowing this for a very long time. We call it in yoga, we call it yoga fevers. So what does this mean? So in alternative health, in holistic healing, I have to say, for entertainment and educational purposes, only YouTube, fever sicknesses are necessary. Because what is happening when your body gets a fever is that your body is burning something. It's the same thing in exercise. Like when you exercise and you get hot and sweaty, you're burning something. So karma comes into the body as patternings. And when you're burning old karma, or when you're trying to change old karma to new karma, the old karma has to be destroyed, right? You can't just slap wallpaper over old wallpaper. Like, you got to take the old wallpaper off first. So the body has to burn up the old karma first. And so what tends to happen is that you get the yoga fever. So for me, it would happen. It hasn't happened to me in that long of a time, but like whenever I get a new set of postures from my teacher, I would go a couple weeks and I would get these low-grade fevers as my body was shifting and changing patterning to do these particular postures. We see this a lot with athletes. They'll sometimes get low-grade fevers. It's because the body is burning something, right? So this is very common, this getting hot. This is very, very common in the spiritual world. And again, this is not a revelation. This is not some revelation that Laura had. Laura did not discover this. This has been talked about. Again, Patabi Joyce over in India used to get really excited when someone got the fever. When someone was sick with the fever, one of his students, because it meant it was working. It meant that the practice was working. New body was making. Oh, fever, yes, very good. New body is making. Couple days, my boyfriend has a crazy story about what happened to him, his first trip to India when in the 90s. He got very sick. He went to India at like 22 years old. He's like, 6 feet tall, and he was like 200 pounds. Kind of chubby, and he was working a lot, and he all of a sudden he had Patabi Joyce like adjusting him every day. And then he woke up one morning just in a raging fever and was just like throwing up. It was coming out of both ends. And he went to an Ayurvedic clinic in India, which is very much available in India. And basically they gave him a bed and they just gave him fluids. That's all they did. They did not give him any medication, just fluids. He was there for a couple of days. He said he was walking back after they discharged him. He was walking back to his house. He walked past the Shala, past Patabi Joyce, was sitting outside, and My boyfriend said, Patabi Joy, stand up, pointed at my boyfriend and said, why you know today? Why you know today? Why didn't you come today? And as my boyfriend got closer, Patabi Joy saw what had happened. He was like, oh, complete revolution, and brought my boyfriend into their house, into their kitchen, and talked. Patabi Joyce's wife and him talked to him. Did you take medication? And my boyfriend was like, no, just fluids. They were like, very good, very good, very good. This is very good. You're burning. Anyway, right after that happened, all of a sudden, within the span of a week, he dropped like 20 pounds and his practice picked up. And all of a sudden, things where he was struggling in the practice before, he was having these breakthroughs. And so that was like an intense yoga fever that shifted, because the body and the mind are connected, right? So that's the basis of spirituality, is that the law of one calls us a body, mind, spirit complex. That's what they call human beings. And in the yoga world, this whole idea of nature or matter, which is called prakriti, and purusha is the soul, the consciousness, and prakriti is the nature, the matter, or the Shiva and the Shakti. The body, the nature, becomes the creation of the soul. And so the body gives us clues as to what our work is in this life, right? And so when we are believing false beliefs and we can't get those beliefs to change, whatever we do, whatever we try, the next step is to then go change the body. Because if the body starts to change, the mind and the body are connected. The body is the mind field, right? So once the body starts to change, all of a sudden the mind will start to change. The thoughts will start to change. That is why exercise is foundation in spirituality. That is why, again, the old text, yoga text, the martial arts, the Druids, the Egyptians, they all had a form of movement therapy. So this is why, because we have this this connection that needs to be worked on and looked at. So the heating up, that again, that's not something Laura discovered. That's not some great, let's give India credit where credit is due. They've been talking about this for years. I hope that makes sense. If that doesn't make sense, let me know in the comment section below and I will try to explain further. All right, so here we go, Oak Island. When I was reading our little bit about Oak Island the other day, I noticed that we never followed up on some certain things. Can we ask them now? Yes. Okay, you said at that time that a trans-dimensional atomic remolecularized was buried at Oak Island. Is that correct? Yes. Who buried it there? Learn. Sometimes they say discover. Well, you are getting ready to learn because you're going to teach us. We are getting ready to learn because you are going to teach us. Is that correct? You already have the tools. What do you mean we already have the tools? We are trying to teach you to use your most precious commodity. And that is, of course, our minds. You betcha. Speaking of previous commodities, since my accident, my brain has been doing some very strange things. When I write, I transpose letters. I get blank spots. I have been doing some other very strange things, playing with seeing if I know something and then discovering that I do. Is it really kind of strange? And I wonder if that accident had anything to do with these strange things happening. Yes. So when I hit my head, I really hit my head. Scrambled your brains, not issue. What is the issue? Can you tell me exactly what it did to my head? Not issue. What is the issue? We are talking about learning. Did this event do something to help me learn in a different way? Yes. Then I shouldn't worry about it. Now you have to learn to work with it. Let's not get sidetracked. Let's go back to Oak Island. Okay. What I read about Oak Island was there were legends of light beings seen prior to 1703. Answer, yes. Prior to 1703, we'll put the burial of whatever is there, at least prior to that time, correct? Yes. Duh, obviously. Were those lights the lights of a craft or other beings than the natives of this planet? Electromagnetic profile. What was noticed when the kids arrived on the island was that a limb was sewed off of a tree. Sorry, let me read that again. What was noticed when the kids arrived on the island was that a limb was sawed off a tree over the depression, and there were marks of rope and pulleys having been utilized. Terry says, if something more advanced dug the pit, they would have used the chain hoist and pulleys. Laura says, that's what I'm getting at. So if there was evidence of this kind of stuff on the tree, it would seem to indicate that somebody had been doing something there who was a little more human or limited in their technology. Is that correct? Yes. Now, my thought is that it is beyond human technology to have produced that pit at that point in history, beyond known technology, and yet humans may have been involved in that activity. Bingo. Think back to when we were talking about it that you mentioned the lights. Some humans have already communed with higher powers. That's what I mean. Our history is wrong, guys. It's wrong. We are living, we are living literally in the dark ages. Like, we think we're so much more advanced than our ancestors. No. Hello, Tartaria. No, we're like stone men compared to them. So humans may have actually, Jan, like those little kids that broke into the house and did all the damage. They could have done it themselves, but they had to be directed to do it. I think that's a good analogy. Not good analogy. We are speaking of conscious communication in this and others and other instances. Okay. There was conscious communication between humans and other powers in the building of the pit. What group of humans was this? Answer, it's fun to learn. Jan, how about pirates? Laura, well, who was in this area? Eskimos? Answer, no. Laura, Indians? Answer, keep going. Network. Laura, there was the French and English. How about the Vikings? Frank, no, the Vikings were 600 years before that. Terry, well, we don't know how long ago the pit was dug. Jan, I'm still, good question, Laura. When was the pit dug? Answer, 1500s. Nationality is not issue. Terry, well, this pit was dug sometime in the middle of 1500s. Jan, and it was discovered in the 1700s. Access, sect information. So it could have been a religious group. Now, who claimed communion, Laura? Who claimed communion? Laura has in memory banks of absorption of mass reading practice. Frank, was there a sect from that area that claimed communion? Answer, yes. Laura, I think this may have had something to do with the people that later became known as the Cajuns, a French religious sect that was living there. Answer, maybe. Laura, now this article says it would have taken 100 men working every day for 6 months to have built this pit. No. Answer, no. Laura, the article also says that it must have been dug in 1780. Answer, no. Laura, when they drilled into the pit, some bits of the gold came up and a piece of parchment and maybe some other odds and ends. What were these? Alchemy. Terry, the remoleculizer made it. Laura, why not? If these people were involved in doing this, why did they do it? Instructed to do it. Laura, they were instructed by the higher powers they were in contact with, correct? Answer, yes. Laura, what did they intend to do with it once it was there? Did they intend to come back for it at some point in time? No. Jan, maybe it was a lesson. Terry, is it buried there in that location for a specific reason? Answer, sure. Laura, does it do something? Terry, does the location itself have something to do with the purpose of it? Answer, magnetic. Terry, are there other ones buried on the planet? Answer, yes. Terry, are they aligned with each other on the planet in some kind of a geometric pattern? Answer, maybe. Question, Terry, do they all work together? Answer, maybe. Question, Terry, oh, we're getting too close now. They don't want to tell us. Jan, can you tell us where some of the other ones are? Answer, use mind. That's what it is there for. Question, Terry, we are using our minds and we are talking to you about this. We are friendly. Shortcut City. I think I'm going to start using that. I usually tell people you can't leapfrog, but this Shortcut City, they're funny, the Cassiopeians. I'm getting chill bumps because I think I kind of know what they're saying, which after we get through this, I'll tell you what my thoughts are, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Well, that's what it's all about. We are still third density. It's not nice to fool Mother Cassiopeia. Question, laughter, Terry, mirth. The Cassiopeians love the word mirth. You'll see that a lot, mirth. If we were to follow the coordinates where this thing is buried, would it lead us to others? Answer, try and see. Well, L Redacted said he wanted to hunt for buried treasure. Do you think that he had this in mind? Terry, is there a remoleculizer under us? Answer, no. Laura, okay, I want to get back to the function of this thing. You say it's buried not to be dug up. It is actually buried to stay there. Is that correct? Answer, yes. Laura, that explains a lot of things about the way it was buried. There was found at a certain level a rock with a carving on it. It was destroyed through carelessness. I'm curious as to what this said. Can you access this and tell us what it said? Answer, measure marker. Jan, could it possibly be that this device was somehow related to the crystal pyramid of Atlantis in a small sense? This is kind of close to what I'm thinking. Starts with a T. We'll get to it. Did the pyramid have anything to do with powering this device? Answer, yes. Jan, is it obvious that the device was buried long after the pyramid was there, but it may have been tapped into the power? Laura, is the device continuously operational? Answer, no. Laura, what stimulates it to go into operation? That is, assuming it does. Magnetic anomalies. Jan, is it affected by earthquakes? It can be. Laura, are these magnetic anomaly ones that occur naturally on the planet? Both. So ones that occur naturally and ones that are produced. Laura, so they can occur naturally on the planet, or they can be generated or stimulated by some other source. Answer, yes. When this machine is activated, what happens? Too vague. Jan, is there a device doorway for entry into this dimension? Can be used as such. Let me reread that. I think I read that long. Is this device a doorway for entry into this dimension, like a portal? And they said it can be used as a portal. So that means that's not its main function. Whatever is at Oak Island, it's not its main function. It can be used as one, but that's not what it was put there for. Jan, is it possibly a lock on a doorway into the dimensions? No. Is it a focal point for entry into this dimension? No. Is it a standalone machine, or is it to be used in conjunction with others? Either or. So it can be used by itself, or it can be used with the other, because obviously there are more Oak Islands out there. Like, they're saying that this thing was put deep into the earth by human beings. And they're saying what was the 1500s. And there's more located around the earth, like a grid, like a geometric grid, but it can be used by themselves or all together. Now, we have done, I'm going to put this playlist down below. I have a Nefarious New Orleans playlist. If you're new here, I have heritage from New Orleans as well as Charleston, South Carolina. I'm very deep into the Southern culture. And we've covered the Cajuns before. I'm not Cajun. I do have French heritage from New Orleans, but my French heritage was Huguenot. And they didn't stay in New Orleans for long. They came through New Orleans, and then they got into English territory because they were Protestants. So they weren't Cajun. They didn't go to, French, what we now know is French Canadian, Quebec area. They didn't go there. My ancestors, they were not Catholic. They were on the other side of the War of Religions in France. But we do talk some about the Cajuns in my deep dive. And there's just a lot about the history of the Americas that is questionable to me at this point. Like, we know, there's a theory that America is not the New World, but the Old World. This is where Egypt was, Israel. So it makes me think that, like, the real France is in Canada. I hold that theory, but I also still hold the traditional history. I hold both in my head because we don't know. We just don't know, like, what really happened. Now, I'm picking up, again, I'll just go and say it. I'm picking up Tartaria, that this was some and I want to know, so for my Canadians, who I have got a lot of Canadians watching me, question, and I can Google this, but I want to hear from the Canadians, besides the Google machine. Is there a star fort near Oak Island? Just question. Also, there's like what they call kind of like a second Notre Dame in Canada. I've had French Canadians reach out to me to research this, and I've been a little weary too, just because of the powers that be. How close for my Canadians is it to Oak Island? Just wondering, because again, darkness can't create anything. Only the light can create. The only thing the darkness can do is steal from the light, try to mimic the light, or invert the light. So the star fort thing is really hitting in my head. I think this might have been Tartaria. Which makes sense. Ottawa, I know, has a lot of Tartarian buildings. Atlanta has a lot of, where I live, has a lot of Tartarian buildings. Washington, D.C., Jesus Christ, it's like the most Tartarian town you'll ever step foot into, and the way that the geometric patterns they used as healing, the free energy, all that kind of stuff. So And if you're new here and you've never heard of Tartaria, there's like a 7-hour documentary out there that you can watch on it. It's mind-blowing. And so let me know, to my Canadian friends, like, what is Oak Island in proximity to? If you're aware of Tartaria, like that, is, I'm just curious. All right. Okay, so Jan says, so there are networking together, and if it's a small job, one can do it, but if it's a big job, they can all activate? Terry, do each of them cover a certain area of the planet? Answer, no. Terry, you said that they don't all have to work at the same time. They can work independently of each other. Are they positions in such a way that if something small happens, only a couple of them kick in, but if something large happens, as many as necessary? Okay. Terry, were they placed here to keep the planet stable in some sense? Answer, vague. Laura, who owns it? Answer, own. Who built it? Answer for yourself, and enough already on this subject. Jan, I think I just heard a door slam. Laura, I want to go to the T-BOMB attack that just happened. Can we talk about this? I can't say those words on YouTube. So TERRORIST-BOMBATTACK that just happened. Again, this was 1995. Hopefully they'll let us know where that happened because I was, again, 12. I don't remember that. Answer, you can always ask any and all questions. No need for permission. If unanswerable for any reason, we will let you know. Laura, okay. We received a prediction on this TERRORIST-BOMB attack on February 25th, at which time you said there would be a TERRORIST-BOMB attack in Washington, D.C. within a month or whereabouts, which was related to an ongoing trial, which was identified as one of the Muslim TERRORIST who BOMBED'd the TWIN towers. A lot of words there I can't say on YT. So, and if you guys don't know that, there was an attack that happened before the big one in September of 2001. So I guess this is the attack that happened, and they're asking if it's related. Can you tell us if this BOMB was supposed to be set off in Washington, but then was moved to Oklahoma for security intensification? No. Is this, in point of fact, who is behind this attack? There is no unified movement as such in either purpose or direction. This is extremely fragmented. Jan says, I read that it may be related to the Branch Davidians. Laura, is that true? Answer, no. Jan, loose cannons? Terry, are the one world government people behind it? Answer, no. Were the guys who did this just loose cannons? Answer, yeah, close. Laura, so this was just ... Jan, a couple of fruitcakes got together and Laura fruited. It's very easy to be manipulated, thus be confused and see demons where there are none and the opposite. That's exactly what I was literally just saying that I love about the Cassiopaeans, guys. It's this one. It is very easy to be manipulated, thus be confused and see demons where there are none and the opposite. Are you saying that these guys were manipulated? Yes. Can you identify the source of the manipulation? It varied. Can you give us a couple of hints here? Name one of the sources of the manipulation. Lizard race. Name another. All their agents, conscious and otherwise. Laura, can you tell us who are some of the human lizard agents? LM, originality. Laura, we won't tell. All humans are at one time or another. Laura, yes, nobody is immune to this manipulation, and yet that brings me back to the subject of the phone call from S Redacted the other day. I would like to know what was the motivation behind the phone call? Dumping excess stuff. Laura, I wasn't in the nature of a fishing expedition. Laura, it wasn't in the nature of a fishing expedition. Jan, or an attempt at reconciliation? Maybe. Terry, well, that would have been some of her excess stuff. Laura, do you mean excess stuff in terms of her emotions or whatever? Answer, answers are easier when the questions are pinpointed. They say this a lot, like you can't be vague with them. You have to give them, because they only answer what you ask. Like they're not just going to give you information, right? Because that would infringe on our own free will. Laura, did she call for reconciliation? Unconsciously, maybe. Did she call because that bunch at the metaphysical church put her up to it? Answer, ditto. Laura, is she still connected to M redacted, F redacted? Answer, barely. Laura, well, it doesn't matter. Why have the roaches been so crazy in the last week or so? They have really been outrageous. Electromagnetism. Laura, what is the source of this electromagnetism? EM field disturbance. Terry, what has disturbed the field? Seismic. Where is it going to seat? Open. Laura, well, I think something is going to happen because every time I have seen the roaches act this way, something has happened. Earthquakes, hurricanes, plane crashes, and so forth. What is the size and locus of it at this point? I think she meant to say location. And that's true. Animals' instincts, they react to natural events before we do because they sense it, right? They sense it. When I lived in California, pets, you would always tell an earthquake was coming because your pets would start to act weird, right? Moving continuously. Is this a fairly large disturbance? Yes. Where was it before it came here? Circling Earth at 6,500 RPM per minute? Yes. LM, is this subterranean or atmospheric? Answer both. What is the source of this EM disturbance? Too complicated. Jan, I hate it when they say that. LM, how about it in a nutshell? Is it a natural occurrence or is it being generated from another dimension? Answer, natural. Laura, is it from some activity within the planet itself or the planet's reaction to a cosmic wave in and around? Jan, is this a normal occurrence? Answer, no. Has this happened before? Answer, yes. Jan, when? Answer, 4 months ago. What happened 4 months ago? Access memory. You want the C's to tell you what happened 4 months ago when you can't just go back and look in your planner or your diary? Well, the Japanese earthquake happened 4 months ago. Is that what you're referring to? Answer, yes. LM, it's most likely to hit a fault again. Answer, open. Terry, is this going to show up as an earth change of some kind? Answer, yes. Can you give us a prediction on it? Answer, open. Terry, this has been going on for a while now. Laura, about 10 days, I think. Is 10 days accurate? Answer, close. What is the general time period to play itself out? Answer, open. Is it going to center on Laura's house? Laughter. Open. If so, suggest vacation. Laughter. Jan, any suggestions as to where they should go? LM, Los Angeles. That's a good spot for the Summer Olympics. I hear the U.S. team has a real good chance of getting gold and breaking windows this year. Laura, once again, I will ask for V redacted if the Naropa Institute is good environment for her to continue her studies, if she chooses. Again, they're not going to. Laura, my mother wants to know, what are the ramifications of cremation? She has read some things on the subject and she is a little concerned about it. Terry, they don't do it until after you're dead. Answer, none. There are no ramifications. Your soul's left your body. Laura, so it's okay to cremate the body and body is third density, not fifth density. Laura, the reason she is concerned is because she read a book that says it takes a while for the soul to completely separate from the body and that there is a cellular consciousness that might experience pain for some time after death, at least until every little cell dies eventually. Is any of this true? Answer, no. When the soul leaves, it leaves instantly. There is no body consciousness that remains and dies slowly once dead. The only pain it causes is to those selling cemetery lots and exorbitant funerals who hope that the cremation trend does not continue. Frank, if people continue to be buried, aren't we going to run out of space? Terry, some places are recycling the graveyards. I want to be cremated. Same. Me too. Ellen, let's go outside. Terry, not right now. Not till I'm dead. Laura, L redacted. Then it won't hurt. Laughter. Jan, get some gasoline and come on outside. LM, I was just kidding. Laughter. Terry, yes, we had our kitty, Mr. Scott, cremated. And when I die, I want to be cremated. And I want Mr. Scott to remain poured in with me. So I'll have my kitty with me. And Mr. Scott won't be alone. I second that with my dog. That's very touching, Terry. A little sick, but touching. Why don't you grow some tomatoes and fertilize them with Mr. Scott and you'll have him with you? Terry, but what goes in must come out and then he'd be gone. Break. Terry, a few sessions you use the term take. What did this mean? Take means whatever it is associated with. Jan, I watched a couple of programs last night on television. One of them was about a man who was struck by lightning about 20 years ago, and this strike greatly increased his psychic abilities. I was wondering if that is normal byproduct of being struck by lightning. Answer, yes. Do the enhanced psychic abilities remain or decline after a while? It stays. Laura, did my blow to the head in the wreck I was in December increase my psychic abilities? Answer, maybe. Jan, we were watching a program about the pyramids in Egypt, and they were saying that there was nothing magical or unusual about the formula, about how the formula was arrived at by which the pyramids were built. Originally, they were trying to measure it with tapes that stretched and are inaccurate. So they decided that if they used a measuring wheel, which could have enabled them to do it without any great mathematical computation. Is that correct? Answer, no. Laura, you knew that. Terry, is that why pi appears in the mathematics of the pyramid? Answer, take means subject, i.e. a different take on the subject. Jan, so we should have a different take on the subject. LM, well, all the textbooks show 100,000 slaves rolling blocks on logs to build the pyramid. Laura, it was done with sound wave focusing. Textbooks are propaganda, 100%. And we've talked about this. We're doing in the series that I'm doing with Paula. I'll tag the first down below where they talk about Coral Castle down in Florida and the sound wave technology. Yeah, it was built the same way the Coral Castle was built close. Laura, I want my husband to get me a bucket seat and suspend it from a tree so I can spin in it. If I do this, will I develop strange abilities? Yes, dizziness. Laura, did the guy who built the Coral Castle sit in his airplane seat suspended from the ceiling and spin in it? Answer, open. Laura, was the airplane seat suspended from the ceiling in his room part of how he did his work? Answer, if you spin, it must be a precise method, not just spinning randomly. Did he discover a precise method for spinning to do such things? Answer, open. Terry, so many turns and precise direction. Laura, can we follow up on this? Is there something on this moving thing with sound that you can tell us? What was the precise method of spinning? Answer, suggest experimentation. Laura, what is wrong with my ear? Answer, vague. Something is wrong with my ear. Jan, describe it. No, it's too gross. Jan, do it. Fatty tissue. Laura, that can't be it. My ear is developing, exuding black tarry stuff. I think it's blood and earwax mixed. No fatty tissue. Why is it doing this? Inner ear. Is there something wrong with Laura's inner ear? Not to worry about. Have I been doing the right thing by using peroxide, alcohol, and vinegar? Okay, but easy does it. I use peroxide on my ears a lot because I have ear issues. I usually use peroxide. Laura, well, it's only the one ear. The other ear is fine. Terry, can you hear okay? Laura, yes. Some people have real active wax production. Laura, it's only one ear, and in the ear, and it is the ear I use the most. Answer, worry not. Terry, easy for them to say they do not have ears. Okay, quick one here. Am I going to get my insurance settlement soon? Open, wait and see. Yeah, I am broke right now. Have been before, and you survived. Same. I am so broke I can't even buy food. Will not last long. Well, I have a lot of things I need to do. How am I going to pay for the conference, for example? Faith, time to say goodnight. Answer, good night. End of session. So that was kind of interesting, and I will definitely tag the episode Paula and I did about Coral Castle. I'm thinking about, after I get off with you guys, there's more stuff on Egypt, but I actually kind of want to see if they have anything to say about the Titanic. So that might be the next episode that we do that I might actually just film after this one. So stay tuned. Now, you guys, if you're new here and that was your first time ever hearing about the Cassiopeians or what they have to say, I do have a playlist called the Cassiopeian Experiment that I have put all my readings together. And so I'm going to put that down in the description box below so you can go through, you can read the titles. I title basically what they talk about in the reading. So if you see one that interests you and you want to see what the Cassiopeians have to say, then it'll be down in the playlist for you. Again, please remember Aristotle's quote, it is a sign of an intelligent mind when you can entertain an idea without accepting it. And that's all we're doing, is entertaining ideas without necessarily accepting them. No need to be triggered. It just is what it is. All right, you guys, if you have anything you want me to look up in the Cassiopeian forum, like any conspiracy you want me to check, put it down in the comment section below and I'll see what I can find. All right, you guys, have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you all very, very soon.